of Iowa State 10, Mark.
Welcome to Humans of Iowa State. The first thing I like to have all my guests do is just introduce themselves so our watchers know what they're getting into, know who they're talking to. So go ahead and introduce yourself.
Sure. I am Brimah Vonjo Jr., Hall Director in Linden Hall. I'm from a small town out west called Los Angeles, and I can tell you a little bit about myself, I guess.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Go ahead and tell me your story then.
Awesome with a capital A. So, I start with my parents, who are now deceased. My father was born and raised in a country out west in Africa called Sierra Leone. My mother was born in Connecticut and raised in Long Island, New York. At some point, they met, married, and I was their firstborn. And again, I was born in a small town out west called Los Angeles. As a kid, I had the privilege of meeting people from all around the world, and they had different cultures, different food, different dialect. And so although I was spending a lot of time in Los Angeles or the Southern California area, it gave me an opportunity to get a broad worldview through exposure. And it taught me a lesson that I carry with me through life, which is it takes all kind of people to make a world, which was later articulated to me by my best friend, his mom. Shout out to Carol Celestine, or Miss Diamond, as we affectionately call her. Anyway, growing up, I grew up in LA and went through LAUSD, which is Los Angeles Unified School District, one of the largest public school districts in the nation, if not the largest public school district in the nation. Before LAUSD, I got the opportunity to go to preschool. And the backstory behind that is education was really important to my grandmother back in Africa. She once encountered some really young people that worked for the government there, and she asked them how they were elevated to such a high station and being so young in life. And she said they told her that education was key, and so she instilled that in her children. And so my father initiated the process of me going to the local preschool. So I started formal education at 2 or 3 years old, which I think gave me a competitive advantage, at least a comfort and a confidence with the formal education process. So then I spent some time at LAUSD from elementary school to middle school. And it was a really good time. Reflecting back, I realized that it was a bit overcrowded. We had the year-round school system because of the volume of people in Los Angeles. There were millions of people in LA County back then. Now it has about 10 million people in the county of Los Angeles. And so kids go to school pretty much all year round. By the time I got to middle school, my parents had gotten a divorce, and I got an opportunity to live with my dad and expand my horizons a bit by moving out to Orange County, California, specifically Brea. So I spent 1 year in 8th grade over there and 1 year at Brea Olinda High School. The big thing that was interesting, I wish I would have jumped on the opportunity and leaned in a bit more. It was one of the first public schools with World Wide Web. And so, again, for obvious reasons, I should have leaned into those opportunities a bit more, but it was a really nice place to go to school. We wound up moving to Anaheim, which is also in Orange County, California, and probably most recognized for being the home of Disneyland. And so stayed over there for a couple of years and then returned back to Los Angeles for my senior year of high school and remained there as I went through Los Angeles High School, Los Angeles Southwest College, Santa Monica College, and at some point I picked up this love for basketball when I was like a very little guy. There was a team called the Showtime Lakers led by Magic Johnson, and I just remember a lot of excitement in the house. You know, before I could really understand what was going on, I would just ask, are they winning? And then if they said yeah, I would be excited. If they said no, I would be down. And so I started learning the rules by watching on television. And eventually I got a growth spurt. So from 9th grade to 12th grade, I started as a freshman at 5'9", and then I was over 6'5" by the time I graduated high school. So it was like a inch and a half per semester or something like that if you calculate it out. And I remember that being interesting phase of life for a lot of reasons. So anyway, long story short, I wound up by the 12th grade playing varsity basketball in Los Angeles. Then I continued on as a student athlete at LA Southwest College. And then my young life got interesting. I was doing odd jobs. I stayed out of school while training, hoping to return to college. So it started out where I was like, oh, I'll take 1 year off. 1 year became 3 years. And I landed at Cal State Monterey Bay, home of the Otters. My personal opportunity was filled with the opportunity to play basketball. So I played basketball for Coach Bill McClintock, who played for a coach called Pete Newell, who was he ran, amongst other things, a big man's camp and a big women's camp for like inside post players. And then I also played basketball with Coach Bill Trumbo, who's amongst many claims to fame. He coached, I believe, the Kenyan national basketball team. So I got to learn a lot about basketball from those two coaches there, and previously Coach Reggie Morris Sr. His son, Coach Reggie Morris Jr., wound up coaching, amongst others, Russell Westbrook in high school. And Russell Westbrook is a Los Angeles County guy who is still playing in the NBA right now. I think he plays for the Denver Nuggets. But anyway, let me fast forward. So at some point, the hall director named Zach, he said that I should interview to be a RA. So I was a full-time student, I was on the basketball team, and somehow he thought that this job was a good thing for me to do. And so I was open, I interviewed, I got that opportunity. And so there was a point where I was a full-time student, member of the men's basketball team, and an RA. And so by the time I graduated, I had 2 years of experience as a RA, which turned out to be very important, because when basketball was over, I didn't have any opportunities to like play for the bag, as the kids say. I had these 2 years of paraprofessional experience. And so I went back to campus to visit one of my good friends, James Boydston. And my friend Christina Schmunk was on her laptop. And I was like, wow, these jobs look incredible. What site is that? And it was higher ed jobs. And so I got my paperwork together. I started applying to different things. And I got a lot of high quality no's. But there was one yes. And it was Laramie County Community College in Cheyenne, Wyoming. So this is what I remember about that. I thought Orange County, California was the sticks moving from Los Angeles. I had thought Monterey, California at the time was even more empty and less going on. So going to Cheyenne, Wyoming, which is, I believe, the least populated, Wyoming is the least populated state in America. There's less people there than Rhode Island, I believe. You can fact check if you'd like. And so, but this was my opportunity to get my professional career started and do the lane change. And I knew I really enjoyed trying to help students unlock their potential. I knew that even as like a peer leader and an RA. And so there I was. I spent some time over there. And long story short, we fast forward, it's 9 schools and 5 time zones later. And here I am, a hall director at Iowa State University. The Cyclone life is a great life. I feel like, how to say it? It's maybe a hidden gem to some. Like if you spend time in Ames, then it's really easy to know what to love about it. Like it'll grab you. I guess I'll tell a little bit about my story about how I got to Ames. I was working for my 3rd school for gifted students. So I worked at 2 STEM academies that were like dual enrollment and residential. And they were housed at 2 different regional universities. Western Kentucky University, where I earned a master's degree in higher education and student affairs, go Tops. And then I went out east to Morehead State University to help them with the kickstarting program that was modeled in a similar way. But a few years had passed, and then I wound up, before coming here, at the Arkansas School of Math, Science, and the Arts. It's a STEAM academy, which is STEM plus the arts. And it's residential and standalone. So the school is housed in the University of Arkansas system, and the students live there. Great place. A friend that I worked with from University of Connecticut contacted me and said that they were looking for people to come to Iowa State University. It's my friend Nehemiah Thurston, who is doing a fantastic job as an executive for Best Buy currently. So big shout out to Neo, because when he contacted me, to be honest, I thought my opportunity to work at like a Research One school with some of the best students in the world and some of the most competitive college athletics and all this stuff, I thought that opportunity was like behind me. And then I came here, and it was supposed to be maybe something we'd try out for a year and see if it was a fit between the institution and myself. I came in with 2 other hall directors, but it turns out this is my 3rd academic year, and I live cat-a-corner from Hilton and Jack Trice. So I feel very lucky. Like I don't have to pay for parking or anything. I just go and check out men's basketball, women's basketball, gymnastics, football, wrestling, and I get to see the students in this other lens. So you see them like in the residence hall, obviously, as a hall director, but to see them with a spotlight on them, showing their talents, whether they're on the field or they're in the band or on the dance team or they're interning with athletics administration or their team managers, you get to see the different hats and the kind of experiential education opportunities that the university provides. And so I just really feel fulfilled in having an opportunity to kind of be a part of it, whether it's have the conversations with students in the hall or on campus, or had an opportunity to cheer people on as they're doing their thing. It's a really great place and space to be, and it fills me with a lot of energy and a lot of joy.
It seems like throughout your life you've moved around a lot. You've had many seasons of change. As I mentioned while we were off camera, you had many different passions. You went from basketball to higher education, both of which inspired you. Throughout those seasons of change, I'm sure not every day was great, and I'm sure it was kind of hard to readjust sometimes, and you're finding new homes, finding new friends, finding new people to call your family. It's tough. I was just wondering, how did you find stability and comfort and home in all of these new places? What was your method of finding comfort and stability when you were in this season of change?
That's a fantastic question.
Thank you.
So my brain is trying to
That's okay.
establish some trends and themes.
Take your time, as much as you need.
I think one of the things was to be able to find a church that was in the local area wherever I find myself. The other thing that I learned over time was to embrace the culture of the place that I find myself, and like lean into it and accept it for what it is. So if you're at a place that is, let's say, landlocked, don't be upset because you can't get to the ocean. If you're at a place where there's the ocean, don't be upset because you may not be able to get to the mountains or the lake. So I think, leaning into the culture and trying to remember who I am and being confident and proud of who I am regardless of the place I find myself, it helps me to be grounded. They say also, if you want friends, be friendly. And so I think that's really important. And then stay curious. So Covey said in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, something to the effect of you have to first understand to be understood. And so that connects to the idea of being able to build relationships and rapport. And so I think that's been very helpful. And then from a practical side, I think the finance part, which is like, my rules are really straightforward. I'm trying to get a little bit more intricate with the way I manage my personal finance, but right now it is out of $1, put your dime out of $1 in church. If you're not a church person, then put a dime out of every dollar like in charity. Take a dime out of every dollar and put it back for yourself to grow like your savings. Eventually you invest that after you get like a nest egg, like the emergency fund is where you want it to be. And then you use the other 80% to like manage your bills and travel, have fun, and do whatever else you want to do. But I think it's very important to like know the value of $1 and manage it, because you can take advantage of a lot of good opportunities as long as you have the ability to finance transitions. That was one thing I had to share with any young person. I felt like my career was helped a lot by having the savings that I was comfortable with. And so my number a few years back was to have just $10,000 was that number for me. So then I approached going to work day to day a little bit more stress-free. I got out of that check to check space, and you can do that with a 9-to-5 job. Obviously, like, I don't have a crazy salary, but yeah, I can't stress money management, and then I can't stress that enough. And then stress management, like in student affairs, we talk about the self-care. So you got to be able to do some reflecting, and so you can understand like what's going on with you, maybe what's going on with your family, what your stresses are, and then what your methods are to keep yourself healthy. So, the hydration, the sleep, the moving around, whatever exercise you may do. If you're a creative, then make sure you paint, or you draw, or you do whatever you need to do to keep that energy flowing and keep yourself balanced. And I don't know, I try to remember that saying about the quality of your life being measured by the quality of your relationships. And so in that, you try to look out for the well-being of others as well as looking out for your own well-being. I have told a lot of members of Team Linden, shout out to Team Linden, you only get one you. And so it's important to keep that in mind and remember, like, life is more marathons than sprints. So there may be some sprints embedded in your life, but in the big picture, it's about the longevity and the sustainability of good health and good quality experience on this journey.
Absolutely. Going back to the question that I just asked, one of your responses was making sure that you don't lose sight of who you are. To follow up on that, who would you say you are? How would you describe yourself?
Simply a man dedicated to mastery, or simply continual learning and teaching concurrently. So that's one of the beautiful things about working in post-secondary, the opportunity to teach and learn concurrently.
My last question I have before a question that I ask everybody at the end of my section is, how do you try to inspire your students? I know that you are Residence Hall Director for Linden. I know you see students every single day, and I know that part of your mission is to make sure that your students are inspired and happy and living their best life. So how do you try to inject their lives with inspiration and happiness?
The methods vary depending on the student, but I would say, to put it simply, I try to help them look in the mirror and see the inspiring and great parts of themselves, and while accepting the parts of them that may be less ideal, and when it's needed, help them form a plan to address the parts that are less ideal, but always keep in the front that they have unique talents, and that getting to a world-class institution required both aptitude and dedication. And so, I just encourage them to be confident, take good care of themselves, take good care of family and friends, and be dedicated to the process, lean into the process, and tap into their potential so they can be the best version of themselves.
So my question for you is similar question to what we asked the last person. What's something that you do in your day-to-day that people wouldn't expect?
In my day-to-day, a calisthenics routine that it involves just simply push-ups and core toning. I'm trying to lose weight, and so that's part of it. 5 days a week, push-ups and core strength.
So like with your history in basketball, physical health is like carried over, you know, staying in shape at all times.
Yeah, and the weird part is my inspiration may come from a space that people wouldn't expect. I sometimes will visit a local park in a town, and it's the senior citizens that are playing pickleball or walking around the gym, and you ask them how old they are, and they might be 75 or 80 or 85, and sometimes even older. And what they have in common is they keep a big goal to get up for, and they keep moving. I got an aunt, my aunt Dorothy Reed. She's a retired physician's assistant, and she is, oh, I hope she doesn't see this. I'll be telling her age, but she's around 80 years old. And part of her being so sharp and so strong is she's walked for like maybe an hour for 3 days a week for as long as I can remember. And she still goes out, and she doesn't need anybody to walk with her or anything like that. And I said, well, what do I need to do to at least attempt to position myself to be one of those really old guys that's moving around the neighborhood and chatting with people and just kind of enjoying that.
Perfect. I think that is a really good goal to strive for, by the way. It is very fun to watch those people do laps around the mall, and it is something that I also strive for as well, so it's very good to see another person going for that as well. All right. I have one last question for you, and it is a question that I ask everybody at the end of these segments. Do you feel welcome at Iowa State?
I do. I think the key is you got to find your people. The way I've had this conversation a lot with students. So I believe everybody has three kinds of people. You got the fans of Chris, the people that are neutral about Chris, and not fans of Chris. You can't convert the non-fans, and so it's counterproductive to worry about that. The fans, well, you almost can do no wrong. Like they're going to be in your corner regardless. And the people in the middle, maybe you convert some of them, or they stay neutral. But yeah, I've applied this kind of idea to come into Iowa State, and I've identified enough fans of Brimah to really, really enjoy being here.
I'm glad to hear that. I am a fan of Brimah.
Thank you kindly, Chris. I'm a fan of you both. Yeah, thank you for the chat and the invitation. It really means a bunch.
It means a bunch to me as well. You've definitely shared some wisdom with our viewers, and I'm sure that we'll be glad to watch it. I have one last thing to wrap up before we turn off the cameras. Is there anything else that we missed? Anything that we forgot? Any people you would like to shout out? Any inspirational messages before we head out?
Oh man, I think there are a bunch of people that I would have loved to shout out, but I don't think we got that kind of time. But I will say I had a mentor, Jesse Estes, who helped me through those 3 years and gave me like keys to life that I lean on now. And then there was a nonprofit foundation that placed basketball players that helped me find Cal State Monterey Bay. It was called Reach and More Foundation, and it was headed up by Coach Dave Wilson, and we still talk from time to time, even now. Great friend and great mentor. I guess the shout out would have to go to all my Cyclones, of course. And friends, family, and all the wonderful students that I've had a chance to get to know through this journey. Yeah, so that's the shout out.
Perfect. And then is there anything else we missed? Anything else you would like to say? Or are we all good?
I guess the last thing, they hear me say this all the time, and Team Linden, stay steady and do your best to be your best, regardless of what it looks like today.